Kyle, what is up, my man? How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, Josh. How you doing?
I'm good. It's a little later than I normally record. I'm usually getting ready to go to bed at this time or I'm finishing something up. But you know what? When you're across the world, you gotta do. You know what I mean?
Yes, sure.
So I was pretty excited to have you on for a few different reasons. Mainly because you live, like I just said, across the world, and I wanted to dive into that a little bit. But to start off here, you're the co-host of the podcast with Chris, Doubly Negative, correct?
That's correct.
How did you guys get started doing that? Because I've heard Chris's side of the story a couple of times, but I'd kind of like to hear yours as well.
Oh, it's funny you ask. We had our 50th episode celebration a couple weeks ago, and we were getting drunk for that. And one thing we ended up doing, it got really sloppy. And for like 30 minutes, we haven't released this part of the podcast, but we were trying to figure out exactly how we got started. We're scrolling through our messages, like, how did this start? And we ended up realizing that so he wanted to start a podcast. He just had this idea in his head, and he had someone else in mind back in Rhode Island. Um, Coincidentally, I was also visiting Rhode Island at the time, and he was having some relationship issues. And we had been friends from before, like high school and a little bit after. And he wanted to hang out and talk about those. So we ended up talking about that. And then somewhere in there, I think something didn't really work out with the other guy. And we were having like a really good conversation anyway. And he's like, "Well, would you want to do a podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Because I've always loved podcasts. I've been listening to them for a really long time. Like really early in the Joe Rogan experience, I was listening to those, and I had my own podcast like 6 years ago too. That didn't really go anywhere. I've had a couple, but I just love doing podcasts, so I'll always do them. And like, glad to come on here too. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I was excited to have you come on. What was your old podcast about? The one that you eventually went away from?
I think that's my problem, and that's why I look up to someone who's got like finance, like potato finance. I think that's really important. Is having a theme. I've never had a fucking theme. I've always just liked to talk about whatever's going on. So the first one, it was just called Kylecast, and I just had like random people on. I had my jujitsu coach on. I had my best friend on. It was kind of similar to what me and Chris are doing. And then it ended up being like travel logs. I was doing like vlogs as I left the United States, and I don't know. It was just like whatever was going on in my life, whatever I was thinking about. But I've never had that theme, which is why I like what you're doing.
I find that can be a little bit difficult, mainly because if you don't have that structure, I kind of feel like you might just it's very easy to go away from. Once you plant the structure, it's very easy to spin off and go in a little bit of a different direction. But I think if you're just like, I'll just do whatever comes up, it's almost really hard to stick with, especially when you're first trying to build that habit. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point.
So you're a freelance writer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How did you even get into that?
Okay, so around the same time I had that first podcast, this was 2016 or 2017. I I graduated from the same college you did, URI. Um, I'm assuming you graduated from URI, right?
I did, yes.
And I had a degree in marketing, but the job market was awful, and I couldn't just find a job in marketing. I don't even know how you do that. Uh, so I ended up working at MetLife for a little while, just doing like an analyst job, and eh. And then I worked at a startup. I never really had any passion for any of my jobs post college, and the startup kind of petered out. And then I was unemployed for a while, and I was like pretty depressed because I didn't know what I was passionate about, and I really hated being at a job that I wasn't passionate about. And for me, like I think my parents always wanted me to work at a big corporation. So MetLife was that, and I had this idea, like the boomer idea: do a good job and then get promoted. And I had that idea, and I was trying my hardest, but nothing was happening. So then that's why after that I went into the startup. I was like, okay, startup's the answer. They're gonna give me chances. But the same thing kind of happened, and then after that I was just like, what the fuck is going on? So I was unemployed for a good 6 months. My money was running out, and I think I read like a Reddit post about freelancing, and someone mentioned that there's a number of things you can do. You do video editing, writing, da da da. And I actually had a writing degree from URI because I was doing marketing as my main focus, but I always liked writing. It actually, maybe it's more accurate to say that it came easy for me. So it was easy for me to finish the writing class. So I had a degree in writing. I was like, okay, I'll try that. And I just made a profile on Upwork.com, which is a freelance website, and I started doing these tiny jobs because you got to build up a profile before anyone will hire you. Um, and it just kind of started working out. Like I started making not good money, but enough to pay my bills. I was like, okay, well, this gives me a lot more flexibility, and I don't hate this as much as I hate working for somebody else. Like getting up at the same time every day, going to the same building every day, and that's how it happened. It just kind of happened as like a lack of other options, a lack of direction. Yeah.
Freelancing, I feel like, is just going to get bigger and bigger over time as the world continues to go on because, like you kind of said indirectly, there's something for everyone on there. And
Hmm.
if you do have that indecision, you're not exactly sure where you're going to go, or maybe even have that lack of purpose that I feel like a lot of people really suffer from, I think there's something for everyone on there on sites like Upwork and Fiverr and all those different things. And you don't really have to stick to one thing either. You can go in a bunch of different directions. You can work in freelance projects and writing and then in data and kind of move here and there and back and forth rather than just stick to the same monotonous day-to-day tasks that you might stick into in the corporate world.
Yeah, man. And in a lot of cases, I talk to people, especially here where I don't know what you would say, the average salary or the average wage or whatever is really low. There's a lot of situations where people can do better freelancing, doing the same thing they're already doing, and they'll get more flexibility, more freedom. Yeah, I think most of the things you would do at a normal 9 to 5, you could probably make into a freelancing job. It's blowing up. You're right.
Which is the coolest thing because you're not working for yourself, but you are working for yourself at the end of the day. You can make your own schedule, you have your own deadlines, you don't have to sit at a desk, you can work from anywhere, and you just have that flexibility, which I think the world's moving more towards that flexibility and being able to work from anywhere. I think it was moving that way anyway, but COVID accelerated a little bit. But I just think it's cool that more and more people are not being linked down to a cubicle every single day of their life.
Definitely seems that way. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't it be too? Um, before we started recording, I mentioned that my mom and my sister worked at URI. Both of them were in the same position during COVID where they both had jobs where they're supposed to go there. And then during COVID, they couldn't anymore. And I think so many people found the same thing. They didn't need to go there. They could do the same amount of work, even better sometimes. And then COVID ends, they have to go back. Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Maybe give people the option, but why do people have to go to work if most of the time all we're doing is using the laptop anyway?
Some companies made the argument that it's because of they have the building and they leased it out or they're paying money for that space. I guess I get that, but at the end of the day, it really shouldn't matter if you can do your job the same exact way from home as you can in the office. There's no need. I like personally, I'm just so much happier working from home. I don't have to worry about like I save time with the commute. I don't have to worry about getting dressed in the morning, anything like that. I like for lunch, I can make fresh food as opposed to having to prep something the night before or whatever the case may be. I just feel like there's really no need to go into the office at the end of the day. And I feel like employers are just really tugging on that and forcing it and it's kind of like that mom whose child is all grown up who's like in their mid 20s and she's just hanging on for dear life trying to keep her little boy like like tucked underneath her wing, and I feel like that's what the corporate world is doing with their employees by making them come back to the office right now.
And isn't that you probably know this better than I do, but I remember this from economics or finance, I think. Isn't that called a sunk cost?
Yeah.
Like trying to hang on, trying to use something just because you bought it is kind of a fallacy, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
just what do you do, man? I haven't asked you that.
So I'm actually a data analyst, so I look at spreadsheets all day long.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with like SAS or SQL or any of those data languages, but I use those and I basically just scroll through things all day and try to find different disparities in health data.
In health data.
Yes.
And what's the goal for that?
It depends on the project. It changes on a day to day basis what I do. It's actually mind blowing how different it can be from Monday to Tuesday.
When you say disparities, what would that represent? For example,
Like sometimes it's like discretions in like breast cancer screening. So for example, sometimes I'll work on a project that has to do with, okay, in zip code 02817, breast cancer screening rates are 17%. In zip code 02822, breast cancer screening rates are 35%. Why is there a difference? What can we do to even those out? Is the race and ethnicity different? Do people have a language barrier in those zip codes? Kind of really, like I kind of just said, figure out why there's those different discrepancies and how we can even them out so everyone has equal access.
that's actually pretty interesting to me. Is that like in the actuary field?
Healthcare. So,
Okay, because I really like statistics for a while, and that sounds like that's what you're doing basically.
yeah, it's actually really in depth statistics sometimes. Like all that stuff I never thought I would use in college, I'm using now. So I can't say this is the direction I thought I was going to go in, but this is the direction I'm going in. But it comes with really good experience. I'm also starting to write papers. Like I'm supposed to publish this paper on PubMed, and I'm just like, how is this even possible that I ended up in this field? But
Oh, that's awesome, man.
yeah, we'll
Congrats.
see how that ends up working out. But I haven't started it yet, but I got that assignment on Monday.
What's it about?
It is about diabetes data and how by different races, ethnicities, and languages, the A1C levels can differ, blood pressure can differ, statin use can differ, ACE inhibitors can differ, all those types of things.
Huh. So you just kind of ended up an expert in that just inadvertently,
I wouldn't
kind of.
say expert, but I ended up in it inadvertently.
All right. Cool.
So back to the freelancing here.
Yep.
What do you like to write about exactly? When you look for a project, what do you look for? And what is there a specific topic that you like to write about compared to others? Or how do you go about judging that?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So there's two different ways I can answer that. When money's my first concern, I've found that crypto is my best bet.
Like writing about
And this
crypto?
has, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And that has to do with some advice I read early on, and I've seen it a number of times. I think it's pretty much universally agreed upon, but it's like it's better to specialize than go broad in whatever your skills are. And I think 2017-ish, I got a few jobs writing about crypto things. And even though it wasn't, I don't particularly love writing about crypto. It's not really that interesting to me, but I guess a pretty decent portion of my jobs have been that. So when you look at my profile on Upwork and like look at my feedback, I have a lot of experience writing about crypto, even though it wasn't even really on purpose. It was just kind of those are the ones that were paying well, and that's what I can do, I guess. So um, when I look for jobs, if I'm really concerned about money in the moment, I go for the crypto ones. Uh, Personally, though, my favorite ones that I'm actually that are like fulfilling and interesting to me have been ghostwriting jobs for people's books for their I've helped people ghostwrite I think 4 or 5 books. My favorite ones are the ones where it usually goes the same. We'll do in a number of interviews, so I'll talk to them like this or in person or something, and they'll tell me their story, and they're asking me to turn their story into a book. um, and those have been the most rewarding for me. I really enjoy those. I'm always looking for those first and foremost. And if I can't find those, I'd rather write about crypto than whatever the fuck else, man, because there is a lot of random shit on there. Like I've written about cats. I've written about like I've done product reviews for Amazon squat racks, like all these random ass things. So it's like I'll look for the ghostwriting jobs. If not crypto, then if I'm really scrapping for money, I'll write about whatever. But that kind of sucks sometimes.
So let's stick with crypto to start here. What do you
Mm.
write about pertaining to crypto?
Okay, so I think probably the first job I had about crypto, I think a lot of people are making content. They're making new websites because they see crypto as this huge way to get rich. And I think most of the jobs I've done have been for websites that want to attract visitors. And the most notable one was I was content manager for cryptomaniacs.com, and they call themselves a crypto education site. So they're writing all these articles about what is the blockchain, what is the difference between the different consensus algorithms. I've written coin descriptions. So I've one of my jobs was to write a short description of every cryptocurrency in the top 100 on marketcap.com. So I've done everything I would say from extremely beginner level stuff to intermediate advanced stuff. But the one thing that I'm totally willing to admit, and this is kind of fucked up, I don't even understand crypto that well. And I was talking to a couple guys that are super into crypto. These guys are the ones that like code the stuff. It's pretty big here. And I was admitting like I don't really know how it works. So if I don't know how it works, I think the vast majority of people in the crypto space have no idea what's going on. This is a whole different topic altogether. Sorry about that, but it's pretty funny.
Why is crypto so big over there? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the people that are on the younger side that have a lot of discretionary income, I think that skews towards crypto rich people these days. I think a lot of people my age, your age, even younger, but in that area, have made some decent money off crypto. And the people that aren't local here, basically, you made your own way. You figured it out. You can at least hopefully you can at least support yourself without a boss that you report to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the best way to statistically say this. You could probably say it better than me, but that range would be overlapping with a lot of people that were into crypto, I think.
Crypto is one of those things that scares me. Like, I feel like it's here to
Good.
stay. It's one of those things where I don't see it going anywhere, but I've always had such a hard time wrapping my head around it, and it kind of being one of those things where, is this the best thing for me to invest in right now? Or is there something better out there? Like, every time I've started to dive into it, and maybe it's just because I guess it just hasn't clicked yet, but every time I get done researching it, I'm just like, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I started to look into that. And I just can't get myself to make a significant investment in it by any means.
So you've kind of ignored it altogether.
I wouldn't say ignored it. I'd pay attention to it, but I haven't put any money in it. No. I
You
don't,
never have.
no, and I don't have any plans to.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I think it's because I'm more confident in stocks. I'm more confident in my ability to pick stocks and how to look into companies. And I don't feel like I have that same confidence in looking into coins. So obviously I
Hmm.
could buy like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those are the two I'm pretty confident in. But when it gets down to like the Doge coins and those much, much, much smaller, more speculative coins, those are way over my head. I do not have any idea how to come up with the utmost conviction to put money in those plays. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, I do like.
Well, that's what I've stuck to basically, in a few of the smaller ones. But the ones like you mentioned, Dogecoin, nobody knows what's going on there. I'm pretty confident in saying that nobody knows what's going on there, and that's what I was talking with these two guys that I mentioned that are really deep into crypto. It feels like it could be just this gigantic bubble because if almost everybody in the space doesn't really understand what they're investing in, it's almost all speculative.
Like,
Um,
there are going to
yeah.
be winners in the crypto space. Like, we just talked about Bitcoin, Ethereum. But how many
Hmm.
of those smaller coins are really going to make it to the other side and give significant ROIs? That's the issue I have. So is it worth taking on that type of risk? In my opinion, no. But some people, I guess, have a different way they look at it, which is fine. But I personally do not see it.
The thing is, is utility, right? There's a range of different utilities that a lot of these coins have. There's the ones that are just straight up methods of payment and storage of value, like Bitcoin, and then there's ones that do other things. Most of the other use cases are helping the first one, so they provide better, more secure consensus algorithms. They make the payment faster or something. But dude, there might be thousands of different coins. There's probably tens of thousands of different coins now. And when I said speculative, I think the vast majority of them people are putting money into, they're not putting the money into them because they believe in their ability to be a winner. Like you said, they're putting the money in because they're expecting it to go up, because so many people have made tons of money off the small coins. And it's like, how much of the money in this space is here just on speculation, just because they want to make more money?
Mm.
And that's what scares me. So I think you're very smart to be very cautious. I should probably be more cautious as well. I've gotten almost scammed a couple times, and it's been out of my own unwillingness to do enough education. Not scammed, but like I was stupid to put that money in.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between investing on conviction and fundamentals and investing on faith and hope and with more of a
Mm.
gambling mentality. And I feel like a lot of those smaller coins, that's kind of what they are.
It's gambling, totally.
Yeah. Like I said, Bitcoin, Ethereum, that might be a little bit of a different story, but the Doge coins, that's might as well go play slots. But let's kind of get back to the writing side of things here. So you're ghost writing. Why are you so passionate about that, and what gives you that sense of fulfillment that you were talking about?
So I think one thing about my own psychology I notice is that I'm definitely a people pleaser. And I've had a lot of writing jobs where the money's not even that good, but I've noticed that the satisfaction of my client, them telling me I did a good job, is really important to me. Um, and that comes out more than in ghostwriting than anything else, because I'm helping people write their books. So I really get a chance to help people in that way. Then often the topics are just more interesting to me personally. Like I did one ghostwriting job for digital marketing, and that wasn't super interesting. I still liked it better than most other jobs, but that's an example. Like the subject matters a lot, and I think probably my favorite job ever was I was writing the memoir for some Russian lady, and she could speak English, but it wasn't so good. So she was kind of trying to tell me what she was trying to say in English, and I had to actually kind of translate it as we were talking from her pretty bad English into normal English, and then I was basically expressing her emotions and her deepest thoughts and fears and desires for her in English. And it was really interesting to get to know her on that level and then help her express those things. Um, yeah, I hope I answered the question. Kind of a couple things there.
So I thought of another one as you were talking. How often do you have that language barrier with people as a freelance writer? Does that happen often? Because I feel like that could be, well, you probably communicate mainly through email, right?
Yeah, not that often. Yeah, yeah. Most actually, the best jobs on Upwork are usually U.S. only,
Ah,
and that is where I get most of my clients. And then I've met a few people here; they were also Americans, so that might have been one of the only times I've had that.
oh, really? So it almost never happens.
Yeah, almost never.
Now, how long until you look for a new project or a new gig? Do those have? Do you try to take on longer term projects, or do you kind of take on more one off projects, write one piece, then look for a new gig type thing?
Always looking for the longer term ones. That is definitely the way to go. And you mentioned some of the pluses of freelancing, I think now is a good time to mention some of the minuses. Uh, that whole looking for the job part really sucks because I'm not getting paid for that part. And there's really no way to tell how long that's going to last because I've had some stints where I'll get everything I apply for, and then some stints where I got to apply for 10, 15, 20 things. Sucks. And yeah, if I'm doing the one offs, I got to do that every time I finish. So definitely looking for the longer term stuff. And then to answer the other part, like how long in between, that's up to my own motivation and desire. And to be honest with you, man, that's one of my biggest problems. I can get really lazy in between, and sometimes it's just about, okay, how much money do I have right now? Is that number okay? Is that getting a little too low? Okay, now I got to start applying. Um, I have a real problem with motivating myself, and that's another thing that just having a regular job is good for. I guess you don't really need to be motivated; you just have to get up and go. Whereas for me, it's like I gotta, okay, make money.
Gotta grind. Where do you think that lack of motivation stems from?
I've been trying to figure that one out for years, dude. Uh,
Because I feel like I've always been the opposite. I've always tried to take on as many projects as I possibly can, and I usually end up burning myself out, which leads to taking a step back and kind of doing a whole recomp and starting over. But you don't know if there's any specific reason. Nothing sticks out to you on why maybe you just always said, I'm okay for now. I don't need to continue on. I don't need to push too hard. I can just kind of hang tight for a bit type thing.
can I ask you first why you're the other way?
I don't know. I think it's because both of my parents were like that. Like my dad's in his early 80s and he still works basically full time. He still works over 30 hours a week. My mom's always worked like crazy hours. She's always worked from like super early in the morning. Like she'll go to work at before 4 a.m. and she'll stay till like late in the afternoon sometimes. So I think it's kind of just in my blood. And that's what I saw growing up. Like even this stuff, like, I don't hop on these calls. I don't do these podcasts very late at night, but I didn't hesitate to say, okay, I can hop on at 10 o'clock. Like it wasn't even a thought to say no. And before we hopped on this call, I was just editing different videos for like the last 4 hours beforehand. And
Yeah,
that was after working an entire day today. So I've just always had that grind mentality. I think it's a little bit because I've always been very motivated to continue to increase my savings and now my investment portfolio. Ever since I was a little kid, when I first started working at like 12 years old, I always had a desire to make money and continuing to make money. And it didn't matter if I had $1,000 to my name or $10,000 to my name or more than that or less than that or whatever the case may be. I always wanted to continue to make more and I never wanted to shut it down. Like if I had $1,000, I didn't want to say I'm not going to work today because I have $1,000. Or if I had $10,000, I wasn't going to say I'm not going to work today because I have $10,000. I always wanted to work and I always wanted to make money. Now I'm kind of going down a different path of trying to find something a little more scalable because as I've gotten older, I've realized that you only have so many hours in the day. So therefore, if you trade your time for money, you can only make so much money. So I kind of want something, like I said, scalable, more, I don't want to say passively because I don't know if there's such a thing as passive income, but something I can continue to get paid for after I'm done working on it, if that makes sense.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a really low tolerance for doing things I don't want to do, like I don't feel like doing. And I don't think that's a good thing. I definitely wish I had a little more of that grind mentality that you have. Um, but I'm just remembering now, like even during MetLife, which I worked there for like 3 or 4 years, and I was always thinking, I guess I've always been more creatively inclined because I was always thinking I want to save up this much money and then quit and then try to write a book. And maybe that was what gave me the minimalist mindset too, because I'm always trying to to minimize my spendings to maximize not working. And I don't think that's a good thing, but I just have a really hard time forcing myself to do something that I really don't want to do. And I think that really means that my passion lies in creating stuff. Hopefully that means podcasting or writing or something. But yeah, I just have a really hard time doing something I don't want to do. I guess that's the short and long answer to that.
I do like the concept of spending as little as possible so you can work as little as possible, but
Mm.
I think that will pay more dividends down the road, if that kind of makes sense, as time goes on and as you make more money and as you spend less over the course of so many years and you just continue to adapt to that lifestyle. I think that'll definitely pay dividends. And that's what I do too, for the most part. I live very frugally. I don't have a lot of material items because I just have found every time I've bought something, a lot of the times I just don't use it and it goes to waste. So I'd much rather just invest that money or just leave it in my bank account. But I think that will definitely pay dividends over time. And another thing I thought of about why I kind of have that grind mentality as you were talking is I think it's because I went to school and worked full time. So for years when I was younger, I just kind of didn't have that thing we call free time. Like I would like work and then I would just go to school and then do homework and study. And those were basically my days from like 5 a.m. to midnight for like years. And in the summer, I took a lot of summer classes. There were a few summers I took 5 summer classes. So those were some brutal summers, some long summers in the library. I'm happy those are behind me. But I really think that's a big part of the reason why. I can't believe I didn't say that before, but I think that's just kind of
Mm.
stuck with me for all these years since I graduated.
See, money is also an interesting topic for me too, because of course you need money. Of course you want to be secure later in life and everything. But if you're saying that you're like me, where you don't really need a lot, what are you grinding so hard for?
Well, when I was young, I saw Warren Buffett, and I'm actually reading a book on Warren Buffett right now. He has this life goal of making stupid amounts of money, which he's obviously done, and he just wants to give it all away to charity. He just wants to give it all away to people that need it. And I think that would be really cool to do that, to make stupid amounts of money. And I know there's the argument of, well, you should give money away now because charities need money now. They're always going to need money now. And there's that argument of, your kids need money now. You might as well give it to them now so they can turn it into more money over time rather than when they're 60 and you're dead. That's besides the point. I think it'd be really cool to pass away and just have a significant amount of money and just give it all to charity.
So you're trying to get like a high score. You're trying to beat your own high score to get
Basically,
some sort
yeah.
of number.
It's like a game to me, and it comes with a lot of fulfillment at the same time, which I think is important. And I don't like the idea of making stupid amounts of money and just giving it all to your kids because I feel like that doesn't give them a purpose in life. And I think that could almost be, people say it must be nice to be set up like that, but I think that can definitely lead to a lot of depression because
Yeah.
then they really don't have a purpose. Like, I don't have to work. I don't have to get out of bed this morning. I don't have to do anything for the rest of my life. What's the point? And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that talked about on Rogan talked about that a lot on some of his podcasts, and then there's always the really good examples of the child actors and people. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a good thing to have a lot of money without working for it early on.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's talk about, and I'm really excited to talk about this. And this is what initially made me want to ask you to come on the podcast. Let's talk about your decision to move to Bali. So, where did that
Hmm.
start? Why did that start? Take it away here and fill me all in on the decision to move across the world.
Sure, yeah. So it started a few months after I started freelance writing. Um, Huh. Actually, it started a couple different places. Okay, so I was always really into online forums. Um, Whatever I was interested in, I would always find a forum. And one of the things was poker. And there's this forum called 2 plus 2, 2plus2.com or whatever. And they have a number of different like non-poker topics that you can click on. And one of them was travel. So I was always just browsing around and I found this thread about like poker players living in Thailand. And all these guys were talking about how awesome their lifestyle was on a smaller amount of money living in Thailand. And I would read this thread like way back, maybe even I think in college I was still reading that thread just because it was like mind blowing that they could have like less than $1,000 a month and live awesome lifestyles. So anyway, that probably planted the seed in my head, and I don't think I even thought of myself doing it. I just like that idea. And then when I was freelance writing for a little while, and it seemed sustainable, I had this apartment in Texas, Austin, Texas, that was like pretty shitty for pretty expensive. And I think at some point I just like realized like, why am I still here? I just realized like, I can do this anywhere. Why I don't need to be here anymore. And I wanted to go to Thailand, but I decided to do like a trial run, and I decided to go to Mexico first. And I went to the Yucatan Peninsula to this place called Progreso, and I just spent like 2 months living near the beach, writing, freelance writing, and it worked. It was fine. It wasn't as scary as I thought. I guess Thailand was scary because it was farther away, just farther away, and more. I'd been to Mexico before too. Uh, so anyway, I came back to the United States, kind of regrouped. Then I went to Thailand. Spent a while in Thailand, kind of traveled around a little bit. And Indonesia was never on my radar at all. Um, but I met my ex girlfriend in Bangkok, Thailand, and she was telling me how great Bali was. So we decided to go to Bali together. That was after we went to Vietnam together too. And then when I came to Bali, I was like, damn, this is the place I was looking for. Because I could talk a little bit about the individual places if you want, but Thailand was amazing, and Bali had everything Thailand had and then more. It's pretty weird how ideal it is for me. Um, and then even after we broke up, that was at least a year. No, it was like 2 years ago, 2.5. How long have I been here? Well, even after we broke up, I decided to stay because it's so awesome.
How often do you come back to the United States?
Um, on average, about once a year. Yeah, it's been as little as like 6 months and then go home, or as much as like a year and a half and go home. But usually around a year, I start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Like I gotta go see my family and I gotta go home.
How is that flight? Because that would be my biggest issue is traveling on being on a plane that long.
Not as bad as you think.
Really?
Yeah, I had that too, and that's my mom's biggest thing. My mom hates, yeah, she hates the idea of flying, but it's not that bad. And you would be really surprised to find, and this is something that is 100% true. International flights are simply far more comfortable and nice than domestic flights. If I had to sit in a goddamn United Airlines plane, whatever, for that long, that would suck so bad. But these flights, even if you get the cheapest ones, whatever they are, they're like Arab Emirates, or all the ones that fly internationally to Southeast Asia. They're nice. You get a lot of room. They feed you a bunch of times. There's no extra cost for that. They give you alcohol. It's a nice flight. It's not bad at all.
That's so interesting because I always thought it was going to be the exact same type of flight as a domestic flight. And I'm just like, how can anyone sit in a middle seat for 12 hours at a time? Like,
Dude, the middle seats are better than a window or aisle seat on those domestic flights. And just to go on about it, you get on the plane and every seat has a pillow and a blanket on it. They have the TV in the back of the next seat, so you can just usually I just watch like 8 movies or whatever it is,
that's crazy.
and sleep a little bit. No, it's nice.
Now, you said you moved to Bali with your ex girlfriend. And obviously,
Mm.
you said you guys didn't work out. So, was it intimidating being in a completely different country, mainly by yourself?
I've always liked it.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Yeah, I've always kind of liked it. It kind of well, first of all, maybe one of the themes throughout this whole like my motivations, I always really like having as little obligation and responsibility as possible. And if I'm by myself in a country where I don't even know anyone, that's as little responsibility and obligation I can possibly have. Nobody can ask me to do anything. I can do whatever I want. I really like that. Um, and yeah, you just find out because I think this is something most people would think about that, and I definitely thought it too. Is like it's just too hard. It's just too scary, especially if you don't speak the language. But in my experience, it's never been that hard. You can almost we're really lucky to speak English as our first language. That's definitely true.
Hmm.
You can almost always find someone, especially in the areas you're going to be. You're getting off the plane, you're going to your place. You can almost find somebody that can speak English, and it's just not that hard. And part of why I like it is it turns on a part of my brain that gets shut off when I'm in a rut of a routine. If I'm doing the same thing every day, you don't really need to use your brain that much. But if you get dropped into a situation where you have to figure it out, something turns on, and it's really good for me. I've always found that when I go to a new place, something awakens in me. I've always really liked that.
What did your friends and family say when you were when you made the decision? Okay, I'm moving across the world.
I was lucky about that too. Everybody was pretty supportive. Yeah. Um, my friends, I was at the age where everybody was starting to really get into their own path. It wasn't really about hanging out with your friends every day.
Hmm.
I was what was I? 27 or 28, I think, when I did this. So most people were starting to get families and get deep into their career. So whatever, man, you know. And then my family, they just kind of said the same thing, like do what makes you happy. And that was something that I struggled with the first couple of years, was this feeling of guilt that I should be home, that I should be with my family. And funny enough, that was always my own thing because I brought this up to my mom and my dad a couple times. Like, I feel bad leaving you guys, and they're like, no, just be happy, visit when you can, just do what you want, and yeah, really supportive.
That is actually awesome that you had that support of parents because I feel like a lot of people it would have gone back to that analogy I had before where the the parents don't want their kid to leave. They want them to be around so they can see him and live vicariously through him or her. And I think that's just awesome that they were able to support you and say, no, go be happy, go do what you want, go live in Bali, go do your own thing. We'll be fine. We'll be here. As opposed to that's a bad idea for A, B, and C. And they really pushed you and told you why you should do things as opposed to show you ways and tell you ways why you shouldn't do things. And I think that's just awesome at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I did get some of that other stuff too, like, oh, it's too dangerous to go to Mexico or whatever. Wherever you're going to go, people are going to tell you it's too dangerous, and you'll get the reasons why not. But I think maybe something that helped me, and I didn't even realize it until right now, is that I think I had a lot of conviction in what I was going to do already before I brought it to them. So maybe that's also something that I was lucky to be able to do. But maybe if I approached them and I said, "What do you think about me doing this?" I would have gotten a harsher answer than I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this." If that makes
Right.
sense.
That makes perfect sense. Was it hard to
Hmm.
meet new people out there in Bali? Like, do you have a bunch of friends now, or what does your life look like now, and how was it meeting people at first?
Yeah. Friends is in the countries that I'm coming to. So you can make the local friends, and that's usually harder because you speak different languages, and yeah, you just come from different places. It's just easier to make friends with people you have the same background from. And the thing that sucks about that here is the people you meet, people are always coming and going. And I've made a couple really good friends that I'm still in touch with, but they just left. Um, so I've had to do that a few times, make a new best friend here, and you're never sure that they're going to be around. So that is definitely one major negative. But I do have a social circle here, and Actually, the biggest thing was just dating apps. Um, whatever country I was going to, I was usually single. I would just meet girls. Some of them would end up being really good friends. Two of my best friends to this day in Bali are girls that I dated originally, and then we just became friends, just platonic friends. So I would meet them like that, and then my other friends would just be like I went to the cafe to work, end up talking to that guy somehow. Maybe we overheard each other. Go to the gym, end up talking to that guy. So yeah, like the places that I would normally go anyway, just meet some random guys.
How different is Bali compared to the United States?
In what way?
Anyway,
Maybe it's more different than you would think, and also less different than you would think. Like one of the things I immediately loved about leaving the United States in every country I went to, Mexico, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, is the just I don't know, it's hard to say where it comes from, but just the overall attitude of everybody. Just everybody just seems more relaxed and less like go, go, go stress in America. And that is hard to get a sense of. It's hard to explain to somebody unless they've spent some time somewhere else. So that is really, really different. And if you spend a few days just kind of like hanging out, you'll see it's so different. But then the things that are actually not that different are just the ease of doing things. Food is really different if you eat the local food, but you could eat all Western food if you wanted to. You could eat the same things you eat there here. Um, General logistical things are not that different. It's hard to kind of pick and choose which things to talk about, but yeah, I would say that in some ways it's really really different. In some ways it's not that different at all.
that's funny you say that because that's exactly how I expected you to answer that question. I figured there would be some things that are identical and some things that are completely different and out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so many individual examples. Like some things. Okay, here's one thing that's so fucking different. The speeding tickets don't exist here.
They don't exist.
The way police in general work is mind blowing for an American spending my entire life in America to coming here. The only times I'll ever get stopped by the police is basically because they want a bribe. There are basically no traffic laws. It's basic. It's so hard to describe. Most people are riding motorbikes, scooters, whatever you want to call them. They're just bikes, and you just kind of follow the flow of traffic. You go as fast as you want if the road is open. You go slow if you can't. And the police will target me once in a while because I'm white, and then they're gonna say they're gonna make up some reason, and then they're gonna ask me for money. But I will never, ever, ever get a traffic ticket. I'll never have to go to court. I'll either pay that guy right there, or I'll never. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it really blew my mind when I first got here. It's just nobody gets a speeding ticket. Nobody's gonna get a ticket for running a red light. It just doesn't work like that here.
Wait, so first off, how did you even figure that out? Like that the police force is essentially corrupted.
It's just known, man. And
But did you know that when you got there?
no, no, I think I was slowly introduced to that idea through the other countries, but here it's just like at the max. And I got one story that really blew my mind. This was probably a few months after I moved here, and I was at a bar with my local friend, and it was, and then that's another thing too. If you look for the places that have all foreigners, there's tons of them. You can go to a place that has all foreigners, no local people, and you can go to the other, all local people, of course. Anyway, this place was mostly local. I was with my local friend, and then another white guy came. He was French, and he got really. I think he was even drunk before he got there, but he was really drunk, and he was really friendly, overly friendly with everybody. And when he tried to talk to you, he would get in your face like, "Yeah, man," like really close to you. And he was friends with my local friend, but I didn't know the guy at all. Anyway, he was so drunk that it became a problem, and he was doing the same thing he did with me with the local guys. like getting really close to him. What's up? And he wasn't aggressive in nature. It was just he was too drunk and too. Anyway, one of the local guys kind of pushed him off, and it started a fight. Now we got a problem. So it's a bar full of local guys, and this guy, he's like, I don't want a problem. He's like stumbling around, trying to touch everybody, and nobody fucking likes him. So it goes out into the street, and it's almost a fight. The police come, and they're talking to the guy. They're like, you're too drunk, you know, blah blah blah. And they come to me. They say, he's your friend, right? Because I'm the only other white guy. I'm like, no, I don't know him. And he's talking. The police are talking to my local friend, and basically they're just saying this guy's got to get out of here. And they come to me and they say, is your friend okay to drive? I said, what? He's falling down. He fell down 2 times since the police were there. He's just falling down. The police say, can he drive? And like, I didn't even answer. Like, anyway, the end of the story, just to get to the point, I watched the police help the guy onto his bike, and he drove home. The police facilitated him driving basically blackout drunk.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they really just don't care out there.
No, it is so corrupt, especially with the police and what's going on. I don't know. I'm sure they do some police work, but I've never heard of it.
I feel like we could have an hour-long conversation just on that.
Probably.
So,
Yeah.
how do you, when you get pulled over, let's say for speeding or running a red light, whatever the case may be, how do you decide what to pay the guy?
That's a great question. And anyone who's wanting to come here, you listen up real close right now, because the answer is way less than you think. They're going to try to get as much as they possibly can. But in the end, I've heard of people getting away by just saying, I don't have any money. And they say, go to ATM. And you say, I don't have any money. They say, get some money. We're going to arrest you. Basically, okay, so to back up a second, the vast majority of times I've gotten pulled over, it was my fault. Usually not wearing a helmet. I know it's stupid, but going a short distance, I just wasn't wearing a helmet. And that's against the law. I deserve to get pulled over. But the thing is, nobody that's local gets pulled over for that, whatever. So they say, you're not wearing a helmet. Da, 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 da. We're going to take your bike. We're going to take you to court. They're just trying to scare you. This is all lies. They will never do this. They're not going to do that. And then they say the penalty for this is 500,000, which is almost like $40. Anyway, they're trying to get you to pay as much as possible. And they'll say, you need to pay 2 million. It's like $150. And they'll say, we'll take you to the ATM. But you just say, I don't have it. I don't have it. This is all I have. This is what you do. You keep 50,000 in your pocket. This is your bribe money. It's 50,000 is about $3.50. You keep that in one pocket. You keep the rest of the money somewhere else. And in case you get pulled over, 50,000 is a very good amount for your bribe. And you just say, I'm sorry, this is all I have. This is all I have. I'm sorry, this is all I have. And they're going to keep trying to get you to pay more, but you say, this is all I have. And they will let you go. This has happened to me, I think 4 or 5 times since I've been here. That's all you need to pay. But I have heard of people paying far, far more than that because they just didn't know. And they'll pay a lot.
That's crazy. They probably get so many tourists. Like that, and just they take stupid amounts of money from them.
One time I was helping this Australian girl out. She didn't know where the ATM was or something like that. And we were, again, stupid, but we weren't wearing our helmets. I was driving and she was driving behind me. And it's a very short distance. Anyway, we go through this intersection and the police pull both of us over. And I'm talking to them separately and she's talking to them separately. It's 2 police officers talking to both of us. I paid 50,000. She paid like 4. No, I don't want to lie. I think she paid 1.5 million. So I paid $3.50. She paid like $100.
Oh my God.
For the same fucking thing.
That's crazy. That poor girl.
She just didn't know. It was like her first day in Bali.
I probably would have done the same thing if I was her. Just like, yes, leave me alone, please.
Yeah. No, I did. The first time I got pulled over, I paid like 500,000, which is like $35 because I didn't know. It's just what I had on me. And you're so scared, man. Of course you're scared.
Yeah. All right. 2 final questions here before I let you go. So, first off, would you ever move back to the United States? Or do you see yourself moving back? Because ever is, everything, things can change.
Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be my choice. I could see some situations where I would need to help my family out or something like that, or maybe some business idea or something like that. But no, I don't think I would want to. I just think there's very few things the United States has that I really would want that would persuade me to live there versus somewhere else. Probably not.
Do you see yourself staying in Bali for the foreseeable future, forever and ever?
Yeah, probably.
And why?
Like I said, it just I kind of briefly alluded to this. I didn't really say it outright, but got pretty much everything I want. Where it's like, so one of the biggest reasons I moved from the East Coast where you are was I hate the winters. So I was trying to escape that. That was my number one goal. And then I went to Texas and I pretty much did that. But then all the places I've chosen have just been trying to get the best weather possible. So I love the weather here. It's really hot sometimes and it rains a lot sometimes, but in general, I love the weather. Um, One of the biggest things is the people are extremely friendly. You're going to hear that about everywhere, but here it's really true. Um, the language barrier is very low, especially depending on where you go. But I'm trying my best to learn Indonesian. I'm getting better at it, but you don't even need to. You could come here and interact with the locals. Pretty much everyone speaks good English. Cost of living is amazing. The place that I rent right now for $400 is just unbelievable compared to a place that you could get in Austin, Texas for 1,000. It is just ridiculous cost of living. That's got to be number one. That's got to be number one. And there's a ton of countries like that, but here even more than other places, cost of living is just unbelievable. And then other things that I've grown to love that weren't even number one, but like food is great, just different things like that.
What are the taxes like over there?
Well, I still pay U.S. taxes,
Right.
um, but that would be a great reason to become Indonesian, if even possible. I don't even know if that's possible, but they pay tiny amounts of taxes. It's like 1 or 2%.
Wow. That's what I thought it was low.
It's tiny. Yeah.
Now, my last question for you. Now, I really want to move out of Rhode Island. I really want to move to a different state. So, I guess A, what advice would you have for moving for a different state? And B, what advice would you have if someone's worried about moving to a different state or I guess a different part of the world and they don't know anyone or they're kind of scared of taking that leap for that reason?
So first is you got to decide for yourself how much you actually want to do it. Do you actually want to do it, or is it just an idea? Because I've talked to a number of people that over the years that have said, "Oh, I want to do that too," but in the end, I don't think they really wanted to. I think it was just an idea in their head, like a kind of a fantasy they like to have. But I think the main thing, if I could pick one thing that will differentiate whether you actually do it or not, is if you want to do it, focus on the reasons. No, focus on getting there. Don't focus on what's keeping you. So, for example, I'm thinking of one guy. He said, "Well, I want to move to Texas too." This is when I was in Texas. He's like, "I want to move to Texas too, but I got my car here." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I got my car here. I gotta like." I was like, well, "I don't know what are you even talking about?" And his reasoning didn't make sense to me. I know he was trying to explain something, but he was like, he had to pay his car payments. Maybe he was saying like he was financially strapped because of his car. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get it as is like he was focusing on what was keeping him, not why he wanted to go. So if you really want to do it, just decide to do it. And a lot of those things will probably take care of themselves. And one really good example is like when I moved to Texas, I was working at MetLife and they weren't letting me go to Texas. I said to my boss, I was like, I decided to move to Texas. Here's my last day. I ended up getting really lucky. They allowed me to work from home. They didn't even have anyone working from home, but they said you can work from home. It's okay. Like
Wow.
she had to fight for that. But anyway, the point is like I was willing to leave. So yeah, decide are you going to do it or not, and then help yourself by focusing on doing it.
I think that's a great piece of advice. That's a good way to think about it, I think, because there's always going to be a reason why you shouldn't or why you can't, but
Exactly.
do the reasons of why you want to and why you should outweigh that at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Kyle, man, this has been a great conversation. Thanks so much for doing this. Where can people find you if they want to check out your writing or your podcast or anything else about you?
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed it too. So self promotion is also not one of my strong suits, but I do the podcast you mentioned, Doubly Negative with Chris. And then my Instagram, I guess, yeah, I guess so. It's KyleCastATX, and I've posted some of my writing stuff on there. It's kind of like a hodgepodge of different stuff I've done, like podcasts and writing. So that'd probably be the best place.
All Kyle's stuff will be linked in the description box. Thanks for watching, guys, and a big thanks again to you, Kyle, for doing this. And I'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye bye.